Hi, you're listening to the She Speaks, We Hear podcast. This is a platform for British Muslim women to talk about the issues that matter to them. Muslim women have been identified as a hard-to-reach section of society. Our aim on this podcast is to get our voices heard. Hi, and welcome to episode 12 of the She Speaks, We Hear podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Do follow this podcast wherever you're listening from. Then you can ask your smart speaker to play it. Yes, Alexa, Siri, and good old Google will play this podcast. You just have to ask. Today I've got a really lovely guest on. We've never met before, but I feel like we're old friends. She's a public speaking strategist. Her name is Khalila Lister. Before she became a Muslim, she was a performer, a radio host and public speaker. Fast forward many years, 4 children later, she has given a TED talk on empowering Muslim women using the power of their voice and also runs the Power of Voice Academy. So let's get straight into it and listen to her story. Assalamu alaikum, Khalila.
Wa alaikum salam. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing really well.
Thank you so much for coming on. You've got 4 kids, so I really appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you. It's great to be here.
So I was looking at your website. You run this business because you're a female entrepreneur. So you run a business called the Power of Voice Academy. And you mention that you became Muslim a while ago and you used to do it before, you used to use your voice and used to perform. So what I'd really like to know is your journey from then to now and how you've used your talents to get where you are today, and also your story into becoming Muslim, because I know lots of people, especially non-Muslims, very intrigued about why people become Muslim and what kind of attracts them to Islam as well. Tell me about what happened when you were 19.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as you mentioned, prior to becoming Muslim, my life was in performing. I was around a lot of celebrities. I was really someone who was outspoken for injustices. I was doing a lot of speaking events around the country and talking about things that were really important. But obviously, I was not a religious person. I mean, my family are actually Jewish, which you wouldn't really necessarily expect as you see me now as a covered Muslim woman. But that's our background. But they were not religious at all. So we were not brought up with any religion. Both my parents don't really believe, and they chose not to bring us up religiously. However, the culture is still there. It's still the bloodline. A lot of what I was standing up for women, I was around some Muslims, but it wasn't really anything that I ever saw as that could be for me. But my best friend, and at the time who I would call my partner in crime, we were 2 outspoken women who were, we were on BBC One Extra. We were talking in different public platforms, and that was the career that we were building. And she became Muslim. And this was when I was 18. This is 2006. And she became Muslim, and it was such a huge change to witness and be part of. I was staying with her a lot at that time in London. We were in Clapham Junction, which is southwest London. And she really started to change in her understanding of life, on how she treated herself, in the way she would dress. And I was witnessing that, and it was really actually beautiful to see. However, I was very adamant that this is wonderful for you, but I was a party girl. I was in all the clubs. I was performing and speaking and hosting, and it wasn't ever a world that I ever envisioned for myself. But over the course of a year, the more time I spent with her and the more hadith she would tell me, or she would tell me things from the Quran, it's as though my heart really opened up. I mean, I'd always believed in a creator. I was never agnostic. I always believed in a creator, but I didn't know who, what, where, and I was really opened up towards Islam. And it did take me an entire year. I'm not one of those people that does things in the blink of an eye. I always said, I am not a sheep. So I really looked into it for a year. And it was 2007. I was 19. I actually had a dream that really, really pushed me, because I was procrastinating taking my Shahada, which is pronounced that I'm a Muslim. And that dream really made me realize, life is short. We don't know how long we've got. And I knew that I wanted to be a Muslim. So it was just time to pack it in and go for it. So I did. And it was the best day of my life. It was in central London Mosque. And I just remember, the light shining in from if anyone's ever been there, even if you're non-Muslim, you're totally welcome in there. It's a beautiful mosque, a beautiful sight to be, and there's just a beautiful mosaic ceiling, and the lights were shining in on me, and I was like, I knew that that's what I wanted. It felt right. And I did take my shahada to become Muslim on that day. And yeah, it was a whirlwind, because it was only a week later, and this is to take you through into the journey that I went on to get to where I am now. It was only a week later that my agent at the time called me, and he said, "You've been chosen to host and run a tour with a really massive celebrity." And this is what I'd been working towards. This would have been a really big break in my career, but this celebrity was a womanizer. So here I am, here I am becoming Muslim, and I wasn't covered at the time, but I knew that was something I was stepping towards, gearing towards, going towards. And, this celebrity is talking about really terrible things towards women. And I was like, I can't do that. And I cried because I knew, that was a big point of my career to be able to host him. And I knew I couldn't do it. So I turned it down. And with that, I really buried a part of myself. And it was for a very long time that I didn't bring that part of my life into being a Muslim. I had children, and I lived a life which was very fulfilling. Being a mother is amazing, but I didn't bring that part of myself until becoming an entrepreneur and re-tapping back into that. So yeah, that's where we go today.
So going back to when you decided to become Muslim, how did your family take it? I mean, you said they weren't religious, but still, what was their reaction?
Yeah, absolutely. So my mum and my dad, they're still together, bless them. They have 2 children, 2 daughters. And when I became Muslim, my younger sister, she's 5 years younger than me, she was 14. And I gave her the book, The Illustrated Guide to Islam, and she said, I believe.
Wow.
She was always a lot wiser than her years. She was a very, I joke even now, she's my older sister. She's my younger older sister. And she became Muslim. So we had to tell my mom that both her daughters were Muslim. And yeah, it wasn't the best reaction, honestly. My mom actually said, I would have rather you told me you were a prostitute. And I think, she was heartbroken, and she was like, what have I done wrong? I should have sent you to synagogue, because she didn't believe in any of that. And she was like, I failed you. You just needed a religion. And she wasn't racist. She had friends that were Muslim. We grew up in London, and it's a very, diverse. It's not as though she's racist. However, the bloodline is Jewish, and to be a Muslim, to her, it felt like I'd been a traitor. How could I do that? What was our family going to say? And to be honest with you, most of my family don't speak to me. They said, as long as you want to dress like that, you're not welcome in my home. So it was very difficult. But we are 15 years later, and my mom is amazing. Now she buys halal food. She spends Eid with us. My dad will put his beer in the other room when we're eating dinner around the table. It's just beautiful. And she can really see the changes in me. Islam really teaches you to honor your parents, and definitely I was a very rebellious teen, so I didn't have that aspect. And Islam really taught me that, and she can definitely see the change has been positive. And, having children and making her grandma really brought us closer together. And now she's just amazing. She'll go anywhere with me dressed how I am. She's my biggest supporter in what I'm doing. She was so proud of me doing the TEDx that I did, and the conversations that I was able to have as a Muslim now, using my voice for good. So it's amazing. So I always say to anyone who maybe is a new Muslim, and your parents, I mean, you couldn't have a worse reaction than your mother telling you that,
I mean,
was heartbroken.
That's really hard to hear, and must have been really terrible for you. But on the other hand, from a mother's point of view, you can understand certain feelings that a mother would have when their daughter changes their religion. So it's hard to understand why she said that.
I know. She's an emotional one. Obviously she didn't really mean it, but you can hear from that how difficult it was,
but
especially at that time.
It's really reassuring to hear that she's, you're great friends and you have a great relationship with her now.
Yeah,
and that's not always the case. I mean, I've heard of many horror stories where they've children have been disowned. So that's really
Yeah.
nice to hear. You've got 4 children, mashallah.
Hmm.
So when did you have your children? Did you get married quite soon after becoming Muslim?
I think Allah, God, knew that I needed to move away from the life that I was in order to be able to find myself fully. And I got married after about a year of being Muslim, and my then husband is now my ex-husband, but he lived in Middlesbrough. So I don't know if you're aware where that is, but it's about 7 hours drive from London. So we're talking about a whole new world.
Upper north.
Upper north, yeah. And it's actually quite a racist area as well. So it was quite difficult, but I did move up there. Um, and then after a year of being that, my condition was I would move there, but he had to, get us to either Birmingham or London. And we got to Birmingham, where there is a lot more Muslims, and we lived there for 7 years. And I had my first daughter when I had just turned 21, so I was quite young. She's now 13, going on 19 in her head.
Yes, I have a 13-year-old as well, daughter. So
Oh,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so you had a few more kids, and all that time, as you said, you didn't go back to your career.
Yeah, I started up again in 2020. How it happened for me was that myself and a friend, well, I was due to return to work. I had been doing teaching. Um, you know, During having my children, I went back to uni. I got my degree in English, and I was doing teaching.
It must
Um,
have been really hard going back to uni with
yeah,
young kids.
yeah, it was. But I knew I wanted to open doors for my children and not just be stuck. So I knew it was something that I had to do. And yeah, I did that, and I was doing teaching. But, after the birth of my fourth child, I then became a single mum, and there was no way. I also homeschool. I'm that crazy mum.
How do you
And
homeschool and run a business? Please
oh,
tell me.
wow. Do you know what? Homeschooling isn't what people presume. People think that homeschooling is that you replicate school at home, and it isn't. It's not 9 till 3. Children learn so much, and especially as they get older, they can become so independent. And also, one of the best things that I've come to realize is them seeing me doing what I'm doing as an entrepreneur. And I involve them. I don't hide it from them. They're very involved in the process. And I think that really gives them the tools to be able to go ahead and embark in their own career journey. So it's actually schooling them while I'm doing my business, because it's great for them to see children do as the environment that they're in. So I think it's really amazing for them to be part of that, and hopefully want to use their mind and expand on that themselves.
But
But yeah, it's not easy.
but in terms of what I always get confused about in homeschooling is when you always have children of different ages, and how you
Hmm.
kind of teach them. Like you mentioned, you've got a toddler, and then you've got a 13-year-old.
Yep.
So that's like that's different classes, isn't it? So that's
Yeah.
I know you don't teach like you said 9 to 3. It's like a couple of hours a day or something. But I'm just very interested because homeschooling was all the rage in 2020, and I assume you were doing it prior to the rest
I
of the
would.
world had to start doing it.
Yeah. So funnily enough, that is my first business. My first business, I got together with a friend and we created a business called Homeschool Queens, which we both said there really is something missing. So we saw that there's a lot of curriculum for Christian children, faith-based curriculum. And we were like, there really isn't very much for Muslims. So we put our heads together, my dear friend, Rakaya, and she's a designer. My background was in writing, obviously speaking. And we got together and we created curriculums for homeschool children. That is our thing is one table, one book. So to be able to have work that's differentiated for all the ages, we do it from 2 to 13, and you can have your children doing different activities together, and it just saves so much time. And it's been amazing. That's where it all started. We've grown a really big community of over 8,000 round the world, and it's been an amazing journey. And that's where it all started, in me realizing how important it is to use your voice and how that can really help you to put a business on the map.
So tell me about the Power of Voice Academy. When did you start it, and what is it?
Yeah. So, like I said, it was going through the journey of coming into being an entrepreneur, and I really poured into myself. I started to train to be an accredited coach, and I was really, I fell in love with business. I'm kind of person that just gets really passionate. And I really saw that the greatest selling tool that we own is our voice. People don't buy products, they don't buy services, they buy you. And it was opening up, and we built our brand, the Homeschool Queens brand, through Instagram primarily, and social media. And it was being able to connect with the audience, going live, doing masterclasses that I really saw. And obviously I have my background in doing radio and doing public speaking. This is something that is needed. There are so many Muslim entrepreneurs that have amazing businesses, and there's the fear of speaking. And I definitely saw that it was something really needed. And, doing things like TEDx, being able to share stories. Obviously, I did storytelling at uni, and I could really see how people remember stories. Storytelling sells, stories make you memorable. And so I was like, I need to do this. You feel as though there's something you need to do, and I know that I can help people to really tap into the power of their voice, hence the name. Whether you are someone who has a message that you want to share with the world, a story, a business that you want people to know about, when you master your voice and speak with integrity, using elegant vulnerability. You don't have to share everything, but you want to be able to know what parts of your life that you're willing to share so people can connect with you. That is what makes you memorable. And so the Academy was created. It's still quite a new venture. It's only been going this year, but it's just been incredible. It's been incredible how well received it's been, and the kind of opportunities I've had to be able to speak about it. And I can't wait to see the journey that it's going to go on. Inshallah.
So what kind of clients do you have? Like, what sort of backgrounds, what kind of businesses?
Yeah, amazing. So I work with all kinds of clients. Some of my clients are coaches, so that means that they've got a very empowering message that they're able to help and transform lives of others. And so, when they tap into their voices, it helps them to attract the right clients and also to be able to deliver powerfully. Some of my clients do keynote speeches. So I'm helping them to be able to piece that together and really, inspire and move the audience. Because what people want is to captivate the audience from start to finish. And there are really great tools that you can tap into to be able to do that. I work with people who just want to be confident to use social media. Sometimes we're not, confidence is subjective. People think that to be confident means you need to be the biggest, brightest in the room, but, to be yourself. And that is what I'm really passionate about. People who are ready to stand up and speak up unapologetically as themselves. I've worked with some amazing people from all different types of careers, from teachers to just people who have a message to share with the world, to corporate companies who want to deliver pitches. There are so many ways that you can use your voice for good, really.
So tell me about the TED Talk that you got involved in. How did that come about, and how was that experience?
Yeah. So this is the power of storytelling. So I was in a coaching course that I invested in myself, and the coach asked us to share our stories. So I shared my story of, losing my voice and, coming into my faith, but not knowing how to really merge the two worlds together, as I told you. And I shared that story and how it felt to speak up, and how, there are so many misconceptions towards Muslim women, and we are powerful. We're amazing. We're funny, we're career builders, we're leaders.
Yeah.
And unbeknown to me, was a massive TEDx coordinator in the group. And he messaged me afterwards and he was like, I've never spoken with a Muslim woman before, but your story was really empowering. And I work with one of the top producers in Hollywood. I was like, okay, hi. And he was like, we there's definitely a platform for it. Do you have the thing with TEDx is it's not about sharing your own story, it's about speaking about a big idea. That's what they really pride themselves on. TED is about sharing big ideas. He was like, what is your big idea that you want to share with the world? And I was like, fighting cultural misconceptions against Muslims. And that is the talk that I did. And because of obviously the pandemic, he'd swapped over to doing it online, which suited me because it was in Santa Barbara. So it was kind of an interview style. And we really tapped into those misconceptions and just sharing. One of the biggest things that he was just amazed at is I said to him, Khadija, peace be upon her, she was the wife of the Prophet and she was a businesswoman. She was an entrepreneur. She was his boss. And he was like, no way, because that's not what the West or the media tell you about Muslim women. But we are not oppressed. And, I personally choose to cover my face in a veil, whether you cover your hair or you don't, or, how we choose to dress is our strength. It's not a weakness, and he was just, it was an amazing opportunity, obviously, to be on TED. Like, I would listen to that getting ready back in the days, going out to the nightclub. So now I can do that unapologetically without sacrificing values. Is even more powerful. It just shows when you do give up something, better things come.
Yeah, no, that's a good message. I will link it in the show notes. Definitely, I'll put a link so people can listen to your TED talk. You raised a lot of points in that about the fact that he's never spoken to a Muslim woman, and I think, from my experience, this is quite a common thing amongst American English men, middle-aged, especially, not young men as much, who just don't come across Muslim women. And I think the great thing about what you're doing and what we do at She Speaks We Hear is similar in that we're elevating Muslim women's voices and trying to get rid of those myths, those misconceptions that people have. And, it's not just English people, it's all Americans, it's global. Misconceptions are around the world. And that point about Khadija, like, for Muslims, I think majority of Muslims know, but there's some that don't. Lots of men may choose not to, Muslim men may choose not to kind of acknowledge that story. Not acknowledge it, just not kind of pay much attention to that part of the seerah, which is, the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him. But yes, absolutely. Not only was she older than him, quite a big age difference between the two, but she was his boss and she was an entrepreneur. And so that's a really important point. And Muslims, unfortunately, the patriarchy affects all societies, all cultures, and it's not just the Muslim community. But moving on from that, you also mentioned you wear niqab. How has your experience been wearing niqab? I only know a handful. I only know a handful of niqabis, I must admit. So it's quite, it's always nice to meet a new one.
Yeah. Just to say on what you were speaking about, that's what I really love about your platform as well. I just love when I saw what you do. I may God bless it all for all of you, because it's such a needed platform. You say that you're giving Muslim women a voice, and even the ones who are not necessarily known about. And I think that's so important, because there are so many voices that need to be heard, and it's great to have that platform. So I'm really excited
Thank you.
to hear all that you do. But okay, so niqab. Do you know, it's very funny, because it was before I had my first child, actually. And I went to a talk, a halaqah, we call it halaqah, it's like a circle. And some of my friends at the time were like, don't go, they're all the type of people that cover their face and they're just going to tell you that everything is haram, not allowed. And I was like, okay, but one of my friends had invited me, so I went along, and I just thought they were so beautiful. Like, I saw some women in niqab and I just thought they looked so elegant, which is not necessarily what you would think. I mean, what? But I found them really elegant, and they were so beautiful, and like I said, funny. Like, when you do meet women who wear niqab, often we're loud. I'm so loud. I think that's sometimes why I wear it, to remind myself, Khalilah, you're a Muslim, calm down. But I have had some problems wearing it. I fell in love with it, like I said, and I wanted to wear it for a long time. I definitely, it doesn't make you any better than anyone else just because you're covering your face. It's exterior. It's about how we are and our personality and our manners. But for me, I just felt that is something that I wanted to do, especially now showing up on social media. It's just how I feel better. And so I wore it, I put it on, and I definitely had problems because I put it on when I was living in Middlesbrough.
Right.
Which, as I said, was extremely racist. And, they would shout at you, ninja, letterbox. It was a really white English area in the city centre, and they weren't used to seeing anyone who was Muslim. And I'm white anyway, so they shout at me, go back to your country. I'm in my country, what are you talking about?
You must have stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. And it was like, how can you see? And like that always makes me laugh, because I'm like, well, I could understand how can you speak, but you can see my eyes. That's how I see. But yeah, I mean, I don't really blame anyone, because I think before I was Muslim, it intimidated me, because it's really like, my mum always says that to me. She's like, you say that you're doing something that is like to not stand out, but you stand out so much.
Because I guess because you're in a very small minority.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just love it, and you have to do what feels right, and that is really what I stand by. Whatever makes you happy, what feels right to you, it is something. We are, as Muslims, we do believe we're here to worship God, and that's what makes us happy. And it's just something that reminds me of that. I feel free. I mean, I was a woman who was dressed but naked, and I dressed very provocatively before becoming Muslim, and now dressed like this, I feel more free, I feel liberated. So
Well,
yeah, I do get some remarks, but mostly when you be kind to people, and you say things to people, and you speak to people in the street, and they realize that you're not a scary monster, they're okay. Mostly.
no, that's very refreshing to hear. I think I mean, the whole niqab issue has been blown out of proportion because such a small percentage of Muslim women actually wear it anyway.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
it's not that commonplace for it to be like, made rules about in certain countries, France and whatnot, that you can't wear it, and
Yeah.
there's so many bans on it, and then we found everybody globally covering their face when the pandemic started, and everybody
Right.
got on with everything and continued like normal. So just goes to show that it literally makes no difference. And this policing of women's dress, like
Yeah.
you chose to wear what you wore when you were a teenager, and that was fine, that was your decision, and now you
Hmm.
wear what you wear, and that's your decision. No one should really be
Exactly.
interfering. It's really
Yeah.
such a non-issue.
That I don't That's one thing that I do find. You get a lot of feminists who really are really pro women, and they are really against the hijab, the covering, or the niqab. And you're like, it doesn't make any sense, because if it's my choice, I listen, I don't know, and I know for myself, I would never wear this for a man. Are you crazy? No man could make me wear this. It's for myself, it's for my religion, it's for what I feel good in. So I think it really needs to be addressed more for women who are standing for women's rights. We're not saying that you can't dress the way that you want to dress, but we want to dress like this. We have the right to choose, like you're saying. I think it's really important that this message is really shouted from the rooftops.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's come up on the podcast before about feminism and how traditional feminism doesn't include Muslim women who want to cover,
Hmm.
and that's why a lot of Muslim women feel left out of feminism or traditional white
Yeah.
feminism, and a lot of feminists don't really understand that. Is that what your relatives, you were saying, who don't speak to you, is that one of their major issues? The
No, I mean, I don't wear it. I don't wear it all the time. It would depend where I'm going. I definitely choose to wear it on social media, because I want that. I don't want the world to see my face. That's my
yeah,
choice. I do wear it most of the time, but if I was going to visit relatives, I definitely wouldn't.
right, right.
For me, the headscarf it's a non. I wouldn't take it off, but the niqab is something I personally would. But no, they have a problem with just the scarf.
Oh, okay. Do you
Yeah.
would they be okay if you didn't wear a scarf? What is it, just being a Muslim? I mean, obviously
I think it's even being a Muslim, honestly. For some of my family who are more
mhm,
religious Jews, it's just. I mean, we were never that close of a family anyway. When my grandfather was alive, who I was really close with, our family were really close, and we'd do gatherings. But since he died, he passed away when I was about 13. No, just before I turned 13. Our family has been quite split up. But yeah, I mean, some of my great aunts, and that
mm.
generation, they don't want to hear it at all. So it's a shame. It's a shame.
It's a shame because, it's a way to build bridges, isn't it, between communities? Um, but
Yeah.
inshallah, maybe one day they'll come round.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my actual aunt, my dad's sister, she sent us an Eid card. Like, some of them are amazing. It just is the outer family, the more religious ones, the older generation
Mm.
that are stuck in their ways and don't want to understand. They just don't want to. Alhamdulillah, I've gained Muslim family. You know, I have such beautiful sisters that are like family, and that's what I love about Islam. It's just the doors are open for everyone. It is just one big family. It's so beautiful, and we really didn't have that because my family are pretty British. Like, although they're Jewish, they were born here for generations, so they're pretty British. And we didn't really have that in the same way. And I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to Islam, because I love that. I love just that family feeling, that kind of happy culture, you know, everyone together. I love that.
So you must have really enjoyed this Ramadan, because after 2 years, I actually went to an iftar party, which was really
Yes.
nice. I didn't think that I'd missed like communal iftar gatherings. I was kind of okay 2020 and 2021, because I have got 3 kids myself, my husband, mother-in-law. There's enough of us to have a nice time
Yeah.
every day. But I think when I actually met people this Ramadan, I was like, wow, this is actually so nice. I did miss it.
Yes.
I didn't even realize. So were you able to gather and enjoy Ramadan a bit more this
Yeah,
year?
absolutely. And being able to go to the mosque for Tarweeh prayers. But my youngest was born in April 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. So she really struggles even now in really large groups. So I have to kind of pick and choose my battles. But
Wow.
yeah,
How
it's
did you
lovely.
cope with that? It must have been quite isolating for you.
It was scary. Do you know what? I haven't actually said this before, but when it was when the pandemic had just broken out, and I was due to give birth, and I actually bought things to labor at home because I was telling my sister, you're going to have to deliver my baby, because I was so afraid of going into hospital where we thought we'd be more at risk. But no, I did go to hospital, thankfully. But looking back in hindsight, it's like, that's crazy that we were so afraid to enter a hospital that I'd rather risk. Oh, no way.
Yeah, I mean, it
Crazy.
was a really, really strange time.
It
But were you able
was.
to have anybody there with you, or did you?
No, my sister was able to stay with me because I was separated at that time, during my birth. So my sister was able to come with me. I had because I've had 4 natural births, luckily, alhamdulillah, I was able to have a birthing suite in the hospital. So she was able to come with me for that. But then as soon as I birthed, she had to go, and that was it. You were on your own. But what was really scary is I actually 10 days later, I contracted sepsis.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
was so unwell. Yeah, I almost died. It was so scary. And I had to go to hospital, and they didn't even want me to bring my newborn baby that was being breastfed. And I had to fight to be able to have that baby in the hospital with me. So it's crazy how it was.
I
Really
think
crazy.
some people weren't allowed to have a birthing partner, so I guess you were lucky your sister, I think
Yeah.
a bit just following that time period maybe, and
Yeah, it
they stopped
literally, I
that.
can't remember if it was just before that you weren't or it was just after that you weren't, but I literally was just able to have her. But she had to leave straight away. But yeah, I can't imagine, especially if it was your first. Like, for me, it was my fourth. So I was okay, but I just kept thinking about the mums who it was their first and how scary it is, and to be on your own. Oh, I hope we never go back to that. That was very, very hard
I
times.
know, it seems kind of surreal that we
Yeah.
lived through it and got through it. Well, not everybody has obviously, but for
Yeah.
everybody who made it through to the other side, it is a
I
very
know.
surreal episode in history. What is the future for Khalilah?
Yes, the future, well, we're only just getting started. The future is that I want to impact as many Muslim entrepreneurs' lives as possible by helping them to speak up, share their stories, use their voices for change, for good. You know, I'm really passionately on this mission, to empower our Muslims and to speak up, to keep speaking up. And it's so important. We need to be heard. It's our time. We have this beautiful opportunity of having social media, which is literally with the touch of a button, you're in front of a worldwide audience with ease. And it is amazing to be able to tap into that, you know. So yeah, the future is just beginning. Power Voice Academy is definitely open for entrepreneurs who are ready to tap into that. Power players, people who want to make differences and changes.
And where can people find you? Is it just Power of Voice Academy if they just search that?
Yeah, so Power Voice Academy, you can find me. I'm most active on Instagram of all the social medias. I just started a TikTok,
Oh,
which is
congrats.
fun.
Good luck.
So yeah, Power of Voice Academy, you can go to www.powerofvoiceacademy.com or Power of Voice Academy on Instagram. where I'm most active in the DMs. If you want to actually speak to me, that's the best place.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was really lovely talking to you.
It was amazing to speak with you. And yeah, I'm just excited to see all the things that you're doing as well on your platform. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to Khalilah. Apologies for the beeping you may have heard in the background. That was her smoke alarm, which she couldn't turn off. If you liked what you heard, though, please do rate and review on the podcast app that you're listening to this on. This will help others discover our podcast. To keep up to date with everything She Speaks We Hear are doing, give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook. You can also go to the website and sign up to our newsletter. That is shespeakswehear.com. See you next time.